It was his idea to start this. He was hired out of college to be a cultural enrichment director, and it paid fairly well at the time. But it was down in South Hampton County, Southeast Virginia, very rural, and his job was basically to enrich, to bring culture to that set of schools. So he had to ultimately, get contacts up in New York and D.C., and the cost to bring these traveling groups down to Southampton County was really expensive, and that's when the light bulb went off for him. And he said, I think there's an opportunity here. And we started this company, and we figured out early on that we wanted it to be a nonprofit. We had selected the name Theater 4 after some, scratching our heads saying, well, we need to, identify what we're going to call this thing. And Theater 4 was where we landed. There was an existing Theater 1 and there was a Theater 3. Theater 2 didn't seem to be significant enough, and 4 was the next number. And that's kind of, we've made other stories since then, but that's actually the truth.
I'd heard about him a little bit. I didn't know much about what Theater 4 was at that time, but I was off in college myself. And then when I graduated as an elementary ed major, decided, I don't know if I want to be a teacher after all. My first tour was The Shoemaker and the Elves. This was not a job for me. This was, it was fun. I loved it. I loved what we were doing, what we got to do, and what we were doing for our audiences. In some ways, I felt I was being a teacher after all.
You entertain, you also educate. And I remember all the shows we did, most of them had a good moral at the end. And Bruce was really good about writing plays that had morals.
It was fun to work with Bruce, and he made everybody feel like we were having a grand old time, even though this was a big venture business-wise for Bruce and Phil, but for us it was a lot of fun.
So we dabbled in adult programming. We would identify schools, because we didn't have a theater of our own. We were very nomadic. Later in the mid-'80s is when we had the opportunity, through a couple of sales and changes of ownership of the empire, that we seemed to be at the point in our history where we were destined to find a place that we could put a stake in the ground.
I was on the city council from 1994 to 98 as the representative of the 2nd District, which basically is east of 2nd Street and west, including the Empire Theater. Yeah. And as a city councilman for 2 terms, and city councilman and mayor for 2 terms, that was right at the time that you guys were saying, well, boy, look at this beautiful place. We need to do something with it. By that time, we knew, as you're making that ask, not only did I appreciate you guys and Bruce's great leadership, but I also knew that, Richard Florida's book, The Rise of the Creative Class, that arts investments then end up being these great synergistic accelerators for all kinds of other things that happen.
I'm always telling people, they always ask me, well, why are you still here in Richmond? And I said, there's so much great theater here. Richmond shouldn't be overlooked. And Bruce is a huge part of that. He's such an advocate for artists and for supporting us and just keeping the work coming. And I'm always saying I'd rather work on Broad Street than Broadway. So this is my haven here, and I love it.
He's just always been a very encouraging presence. Bruce is always just a very, very positive person, and that was one of the first things that struck me, because I thought the artistic director, I didn't know how many hats he wore as an artistic director, how many things that he had written, how many projects he had directed, I didn't know sort of what the job entailed. I just knew he was the guy in charge. But for him to take the time out to be complimentary and nice it was a good impression.
Bruce hired Terry Bliss to do research and to also co-author the play. And they went around and interviewed folks who were working directly with children, people in the field, and in the course of doing that, heard about children's when there was no one else to talk to, how they might talk to their pet or the farm animal or whatever about what was bothering them. And we can all probably remember doing that either with our stuffed teddy bear or our puppy or whatever. So that's how Hugs came to be, is my understanding how Hugs, the dog, came to be a part of the program. There could have been a play developed by other people in other settings, but without Bruce's dedication in all those areas, I mean, you're talking every facet of it. I think his understanding of theater, again, as a teaching tool with children, as a way to reach children, get messages to them, a way to entertain them, all those. Without his and Phil's understanding of that, you know, we probably would have been pretty much dead in the water early on.
When they merged with Barksdale, it was a wonderful opportunity for both theaters. It was, to me, a no-brainer. This is sort of like the answer to the prayers that we had been wondering what we were going to do and where we were going to turn. And the magical part about it for me was that Bruce and Phil particularly had such a respect for the history of the Barksdale. You know, that was something I'm not sure we saw, everybody saw, that's what they really cared about. But the thing I've always thought about, Bruce and Phil too, they don't make theater about themselves. I don't know, maybe their magic is that they have the passion and the dream and the desire for the art and the craft of theater. And they also have the passion and the dream and desire for the community of Richmond.
After 9/11, Bruce's play Buffalo Soldier, the folks at the Pentagon wanted to do something there in the Pentagon that would be a morale builder, you know, and a connector for people there who had gone through that still horrific experience. And so just within months after the 9/11 attack, Bruce's play was featured there at the Pentagon so that people could see it and be inspired by it. And you guys went up and put it on, and that's, you know, that just doesn't happen. I'm on the Armed Services Committee now, so I spent a lot of time over there. So that was a very raw moment, and still is, but at that signature time when the military leadership was looking for, okay, what's something we can do to bring people together, that Bruce's play would be picked and that y'all would be picked to perform it there. That's something that's very rare, very unique.
All the years I've worked here, Bruce has not wavered in his commitment to making sure that nobody is denied access to live theater based on an inability to pay. He has always given me the permission to make the judgment call and say, you know, we need to give these people some tickets, otherwise they might not ever get to see a live theater production. And he's given me the freedom to do that, and that's so important, to be inclusive.
Bruce has produced many things, all wonderful. My Fair Lady was delightful, Color Purple was gripping, and everything he produces has taken lots of thought.
He always tells me, I'm so proud of you. And then generally he'll ask, why are you still here? Like, why are you still in Richmond? I'm like, Bruce, it's because of you.
But I have always been able to make a living in the theater, and I have Bruce Miller to thank for that.
You know, if you think about who has put a real big thumbprint on the city in the 31 years I've lived here, I mean, you know, Bruce is going to be in the top 10, absolutely.
It's his desire to make changes for the better in the community. The Hugs and Kisses program, which deals with child abuse awareness and prevention. The new program that he's working on to try to enhance early childhood education, all of those things are going to make the community better. And I think we take for granted about the theatrical aspect and his focus on excellence and all that, but what's really important, I think, is his real desire to make Richmond and the state a better place through the other programs that affect people way beyond the theater. That's what makes Bruce special.
Thank you, Bruce. And thank you on behalf of the children.
Thank you, Bruce, for everything.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, 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 Bruce. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks, Bruce.